Dignified Dementia in September of 2022 while still being one of my dad's primary caregivers. It's been very difficult. He was so honored that I started it. He would forget what it was, but when reminded, he was very honored. Sometimes he would tear up and go, "You did that for me?" And I would do anything for him. I would do anything for my family members, and for the people I'm helping right now. I'm just so honored to do it. I'm honored to hear every story that I hear. But what we do is we have a resource library that you can go to if you're caring for someone with dementia, or if you're worried you might have dementia, or you're worried someone you love has dementia. You can find helpful websites. You can find research studies that you could potentially be in. You can find everything from beginning to end of life. And then we also offer a live Facebook chat that I have had to postpone, but I'm going to resurrect in August. And we have a mutual aid group as well for caregivers and for those living with dementia. And what we do on the live Facebook chat, I'm very proud of it, called the Caregiver Empower Hour. And we have guests, and I do talks on things that are relevant to caregivers, things that I've learned. We did a 3-part series on the difficult questions. There are a lot of difficult questions when you get a dementia diagnosis, but we did a series on when is it time to stop driving, when is it no longer safe for you to be at home alone, and when is it time to consider potentially it's no longer safe for you to live in your home and you're not getting the kind of care that you need. But what we also do on Dignified Dementia is we sell a toolkit to help provide for the other services and programs we're developing. And the toolkit is something that I developed for my dad specifically, and he used the 3 components in the toolkit every day up until the last 2 weeks of his life. He just recently passed. He passed this year in February. But what we offer is a calendar, an eating guide, a wellness journal, and medication information tracking form, as well as a medication tracking form. And these just are exactly what they claim to be. They're tools that happened to work for my dad. So what he would do every day is get up, we'd do some exercises, he would come to his desk, and then he would have the calendar in a dry erase or a transparency. We're old enough to know what one of those is. And we would have to circle the day, then he would have to write out the full date, and then go to the Eating Today guide and pick out his breakfast, pick out his lunch, and pick out his dinner. And this this guide I'm very proud of because it worked. It worked when he was still able to make food for himself, and it worked all the way till the end of his life. Because, and then he knew how his day was going to go. He knew what day it was, where he was in the present, and he knew if he forgot, he could go back to it. It was just right there on his desk. And the wellness journal in particular is something that uses a lot of skills that you lose as your brain atrophies in dementia. And it tracks things for you to help you remember, did I take a shower? When was the last time I took a shower? When was the last time I brushed my teeth? And all of this is intended to help you communicate better with your physicians and your care team. My father's caregiver, we had a woman who came into our home 3 times a week. She would do his wellness journal with him, and then she would look at the Eating Today guide to find out what he picked, what he was eating today. And we would also bring it to the doctors. And it was encouragement from the doctors and the speech therapists and the healthcare workers and the occupational therapists that I got the courage to put these online and put them out there to help other people like my dad. The biggest inspiration was, of course, my dad and his diagnosis, but the encouragement I got from his medical team was a big boost. And I'm proud to be able to say that I am doing exactly what my dad asked for us to do, is help other people like him. And that's a very long-winded answer to what dignified dementia is.
You know what, it's a very important because things like the medical information tracking, look, you're dealing with somebody who may not remember from visit to visit, but if you have it marked down what each visit was, it not only helps you, the patient, you, the caregiver, and the patient, but it also helps the doctor remember where they're at, because we're in a, get them in, get them out doctor world right now. Doctors are unfortunately, right, doctors are unfortunately forced to see numbers instead of patients, and it's a sad fact that that's true. That's one of the things that upsets you when you first were diagnosed, and like I've said it before, I walked around with a broken neck for 3 years. There's things that are missed. So having this tracking system is so important. The meals, this is something that they still have a voice, and they can, if with the groceries and everything else, it's right there. It's something that would make it extremely beneficial and easier for them to cope from day to day. Melissa, I want to bring you on right now because I know that you've got questions that you were unable to ask last week. So I'm gonna kind of just kick back and let you ladies talk, because your story is so tied into this.
Well, hello, Jennifer. So nice to meet you.
Yeah.
But yeah. I love your story, and I love, like I said before when we spoke briefly on the phone, like how we can just bring awareness about this, because first of all, that toolkit is so important. I remember, us, me, my siblings having a notebook and trying to remember everything ourselves, you know, putting that in there for her, you know, and it's so important. And like Zach said, you know, you go to the doctor these days and they do override so many things. And a lot of times which is scary. And from my experience with my mom, you know, going to the doctor, and especially if she was on her own, and if her doctor asked her, oh, how's everything going? And, oh, I feel great. Everything's good. Everything's good. Yep, 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 yep. And you go home and then, you know, months later, it's like, she's not good. What's going on? And so we didn't pick these up until my sister and I was like, okay, we're going to have to start going to these appointments with her. And just, we would let, you know, allow the doctor to ask the questions and hear her answer. And we were like, no, that's not it. You know, so it's so hard to pick it up in those early stages, especially when you don't have a person with you, or if you're not writing down exactly what you're eating, what you're doing every day, you know, how you're feeling. And it's scary when, just to know that there were plenty of times she has gone to that doctor and questions were asked and she said she was okay. She was 47 years old. And that's when we said, okay, things are not okay. She forgot my birthday. She was forgetting little things here and there. And my sister said, we need to take her to a therapist. That's what we did. And then a little while later, sure enough, you know, he says, I think she has, you know, early stages of Alzheimer's. And it wasn't even a dementia, it was Alzheimer's. And it runs in my family. Her mom passed from it. You know, her sister passed from it, and they were only 11 months apart. So it has not skipped a generation up until my generation, and we're hoping it stays that way. But this is why I take care of myself the way that I do. This is why I'm, you know, into exercise. And it's funny because my mom, although she wasn't so much into exercising, she was the one that introduced me. And I wish she would have kept